Sun Wukong felt immense joy and bounded with excitement after receiving his name from Patriarch Subhuti. He bowed respectfully to the Patriarch to express his gratitude. The Patriarch immediately ordered the immortals to leave Wukong outside the second gate and teach him the rituals of sweeping, greeting guests, and proper conduct in social interactions. The immortals followed the order and led Wukong out of the main hall. Outside the gate, Wukong bowed to each senior brother one by one before settling his sleeping quarters along the corridor. From the next early morning, Wukong studied human speech and etiquette with his senior brothers. He listened to the Patriarch expound on the Tao and Buddhist teachings, practiced writing, and burned incense, doing so every day without fail. In his spare time he swept the ground, hoed the garden, tended to flowers, and trimmed trees, gathered firewood, lit fires, carried water, and fetched porridge. He made sure every item needed in the cave was fully prepared. 6 or 7 years passed quietly in the Three Stars Cave before Wukong realized it. One day Patriarch Subhuti ascended the lecture platform, sat tall, and gathered all the immortals to preach the Supreme Tao. The scene was truly extraordinary. Heavenly flowers fell like rain and golden lotuses emerged from the earth. The Patriarch expounded on the three vehicles of Buddhism with profound wisdom, encompassing the essence of countless Dharma doors. He waved his dust whisk gently, his words flowing like pearls and jade, his voice booming like thunder that shook the 9 heavens. At times he spoke of Taoist principles, at times of Buddhist charm, blending Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism into a harmonious whole. He revealed the truth of sincere devotion through a single character and guided everyone toward the profound mystery of transcending birth and death to enlighten their nature. Listening intently by the side, Wukong grew more and more delighted. He could not help but scratch his ears and cheeks, his eyes crinkling with joy, and eventually broke into joyful dancing. The Patriarch noticed him at once and called out to him, asking why he was jumping about wildly in the group instead of listening to the lecture. Wukong quickly stopped and bowed, explaining that he was listening with all his sincerity. When he heard the Master's wonderful teachings, he was so overcome with joy that he could not help but dance and begged for forgiveness. The Patriarch asked, since Wukong could appreciate the profound meaning in his words, how long he had been in the cave. Wukong scratched his head, saying he was born muddled and did not know how to measure time. He only remembered that when the stove ran out of fire, he often went to cut firewood behind the mountain where there was a beautiful peach tree, and he had eaten his fill of peaches 7 times. The Patriarch smiled, telling him that mountain was called Rotten Peach Mountain, and having eaten the peaches 7 times, he must have been there for 7 years. The Patriarch then asked what kind of Tao Wukong wished to learn from him. Wukong replied respectfully that he would obey whatever the Master taught him, and as long as it carried the essence of the Tao, he was willing to learn it. The Patriarch told Wukong there were 360 side doors in the School of the Tao, and each side door could lead to enlightenment. He asked which one Wukong wanted to learn. Wukong answered that he would follow the Master's guidance wholeheartedly. The Patriarch proposed teaching him the Tao of the Art Door. Wukong asked what the Tao of the Art Door entailed. The Patriarch explained that the Art Door included invoking immortals, using spirit writing and fortune-telling with yarrow-stalk skills that let one know how to seek good fortune and avoid misfortune. Wukong pressed if this could lead to immortality. The patriarch shook his head saying it could not. Wukong immediately refused to learn it. The patriarch then proposed teaching Wukong the Tao of the flow door. Wukong asked again what the principle behind the flow door was. The patriarch replied that the flow door encompassed Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, Yin-Yang school, Moism, and medical school, such practices as reading scriptures, reciting Buddha's name, worshipping immortals, and summoning holy beings. Wukong asked if this could lead to immortality. The patriarch said seeking immortality through this was like placing a pillar inside a wall. Wukong looked puzzled, saying he was an honest monkey and did not understand idioms. He asked what placing a pillar inside a wall meant. The patriarch explained that when people build houses to make them sturdy, they place a pillar inside the wall, but when the mansion is about to collapse, that pillar will surely rot away. Wukong nodded, realizing it was not lasting, and refused to learn it again. The patriarch continued proposing to teach Wukong the Tao of the stillness door. Wukong asked what kind of enlightenment came from the stillness door. The patriarch answered that it involved fasting from grains, embracing tranquility and inaction, practicing Chan meditation, observing silence and vegetarianism, cultivating sleep techniques, accumulating merits, or entering samadhi and seclusion. Wukong pressed if this could grant immortality. The patriarch said it was like unfired clay bricks at the kiln. Wukong laughed, saying the master was using idioms again, and he had just said he did not understand them. He asked what unfired clay bricks at the kiln meant. The patriarch explained that it was like the raw clay bricks made at the kiln. Though they had taken shape, they had not been tempered by fire and water. When heavy rain pours down, they will dissolve and crumble. Wukong replied that it was not lasting either and refused to learn it. The patriarch then said he would teach Wukong the Tao of the action door. Wukong asked what the Tao of the action door involved. The patriarch explained that it was active practice such as yin-yang cultivation, drawing about and stepping on a crossbow, massaging the navel to circulate qi, refining elixirs with formulas, burning grass to heat cauldrons, ingesting red lead or refined autumn stone, and even drinking women's milk. Wukong hurried to ask if this could lead to immortality. The patriarch shook his head, saying seeking immortality through this was like fishing for the moon in water. Wukong said the master was using another idiom and asked what fishing for the moon in water meant. The patriarch explained that the moon hangs in the sky and its reflection appears in the water. Though one can see it, they can never grasp it. Ultimately, it is just an empty pursuit. Wukong firmly refused to learn it. Hearing this, the patriarch suddenly shouted, jumped down from the platform, and pointed at Wukong with his ruler. He scolded the mischievous monkey for refusing this and that and asked what he wanted. He stepped forward, struck Wukong 3 times on the head, then turned his back, walked inside, closed the middle gate, and left everyone behind. The immortals present were terrified. They all blamed Wukong, calling him a reckless monkey and saying he was rude to talk back to the master who had offered to teach him the Tao. They worried that angering the master would mean he might not come out for a long time. At that moment, everyone complained about him feeling disdain and dislike. But Wukong did not get angry at all. He just smiled warmly. In truth, the Monkey King had already deciphered the patriarch's hidden message and kept it in his heart. So he did not argue with the others, only enduring in silence. The 3 strikes meant he should pay attention at the 3rd watch. Turning his back and closing the middle gate meant Wukong should enter through the back door to receive the secret Tao teachings in a private place. That day Wukong waited eagerly with his senior brothers in front of the 3 Stars Kid, longing for night to fall. As dusk arrived, he went to bed with the others, pretending to close his eyes while regulating his breath to stabilize his spirit. There were no watchmen or timekeeping instruments in the mountains, so Wukong judged the hour by adjusting the breath flowing through his nostrils. Around midnight he quietly got up, put on his clothes, secretly opened the front gate, slipped away from the group, and stepped outside. Looking up, he saw a clear moon and cool dew, with the entire world pure and free of dust. In the deep mountains, quiet birds nested in the forests, and spring water gurgled from its source. Fireflies fluttered, scattering faint glimmers of light, while wild geese flew in formation across the clouds. It was exactly the 3rd watch, the perfect time to seek the true Tao. He followed the old path to the back gate and saw it half open. Wukong rejoiced, knowing the master truly intended to teach him the Tao by leaving the gate open on purpose. He tiptoed forward, slipped through the gate sideways, and walked straight to the patriarch's sleeping couch. He saw the patriarch curled up, sleeping with his back to the door. Not daring to disturb him, Wukong knelt quietly beside the couch. Before long the patriarch woke up, stretched his legs, and chanted to himself. He spoke of the difficulty of the Tao, its profound nature, and warned not to take the golden elixir lightly. He said without meeting a true sage to pass down the secret formula, empty words would only tire one's mouth and dry one's tongue. Wukong responded immediately, telling the master that his disciple had been kneeling there waiting for a long time. Recognizing Wukong's voice, the patriarch got up, put on his robe, sat cross-legged, and scolded him for being at the back instead of sleeping in the front. Wukong replied respectfully that the master had hinted to him in front of everyone the previous day that he would teach him the Tao at the 3rd watch through the back gate. So he had dared to come here boldly and kneel before the master's couch. The patriarch was overjoyed and thought to himself that this monkey must be a creature born of heaven and earth, otherwise he could not have deciphered the hidden message. Wukong added that there were no others here, only his disciple. He begged the master to show great compassion and teach him the Tao of immortality, promising never to forget the kindness. The patriarch said Wukong was destined and he was willing to teach him. Since he had understood the hidden message, he told him to come closer and listen carefully as he would pass on the wonderful formula for immortality. Wukong kowtowed to thank him, then pricked up his ears, knelt beside the couch, and focused intently on memorizing the mantra. The patriarch recited the secret formula of manifest and esoteric unity, explaining that nurturing life boiled down to essence, energy, and spirit, which must be guarded firmly, never to leak. He taught that remembering the mantra brings great benefit, eliminating evil desires to gain peace and clarity. He spoke of shining brightly pure, going to the cinnabar platform to admire the bright moon and the natural intertwining of tortoise and snake within, which strengthens life and destiny. He explained that gathering the 5 elements and using them in reverse would allow one to plant golden lotuses in fire, and when merits are complete one would become a Buddha or an immortal. Having revealed the root of immortality, Wukong's mind opened and blessings descended upon him. He memorized the mantra firmly, bowed deeply to thank the patriarch for his great kindness, then quietly left through the back gate. He saw the eastern sky turning pale with dawn and golden light shining brightly in the west. Following the same path back to the front gate, he pushed it open gently, returned to his sleeping quarters and shook his bed, on purpose calling out that daybreak had come and it was time to wake up. The others were still fast asleep, unaware that Wukong had obtained the true Tao. That day Wukong went about his usual routine but secretly practiced the mantra, regulating his breath before midnight and afternoon to refine his Tao. Before he knew it, another 3 years passed. The patriarch ascended the throne again and taught the immortals. This time he discussed parables and analyzed external appearances and inner essence. Suddenly he asked where son Wukong was. Wukong stepped forward and knelt, saying his disciple was there. The patriarch asked what Tao he had cultivated recently. Wukong replied that thanks to the master's boundless kindness he had achieved complete merits and could already soar into the clouds and ascend to immortality. The patriarch told him to show his flying skill. Wukong displayed his ability, jumping up suddenly, doing several consecutive somersaults, rising 5 or 6 zhang above the ground and flying on the clouds for about the time it takes to eat a meal. He traveled less than 3 li round trip, landed in front of the patriarch and clasped his hands, saying this was flying on clouds. The patriarch laughed, saying this was not cloud soaring but merely cloud climbing. He quoted the ancient saying that immortals travel to the North Sea in the morning and Kangwu in the evening. He pointed out that Wukong had taken half a day to travel less than 3 li, which was not even proper cloud climbing. Wukong asked what it meant to travel to the North Sea in the morning and Kangwu in the evening. The patriarch explained that true cloud soarers set off from the North Sea at dawn, travel through the East, West, and South Seas, then return to Kangwu, an old name for lingling in the North Sea. To travel around the 4 seas in a single day is true cloud soaring. Wukong looked troubled, saying it was very difficult. The patriarch said nothing is difficult for one who sets their mind to it. Hearing this, Wukong kowtowed and begged the master to see things through to the end. He asked the master to show great compassion and teach him the cloud soaring technique as well, promising never to forget the kindness. The patriarch said all immortals soar by stomping their feet, but Wukong did not. He had seen Wukong jump up with several somersaults earlier, so he would teach him the golden hooped cloud based on his style. Wukong kowtowed again to beg, and the patriarch passed on the mantra. He explained that to summon this cloud one must recite the spell, clench their fists tightly, shake their body and jump. One somersault would carry them 10,000 and 8,000 li. The immortals laughed, saying what good fortune for Wukong. They joked that if he mastered this skill he could work as a messenger for shops delivering documents and notices and never go hungry anywhere. The master and disciples returned to their caves as night fell. That night Wukong practiced diligently and mastered the golden hooped cloud. From then on he lived freely and unrestrained, enjoying the bliss of immortality. One day spring turned to summer. The immortals gathered under the pine trees to discuss the Tao for a long time. One of them said Wukong must have cultivated great karmic fate in his past lives. He asked if Wukong had mastered the technique to avoid the 3 calamities and transformations that the master had whispered in his ear a few days earlier. Wukong smiled, saying thanks to the master's teachings and his day and night practice he had mastered all of them. The immortals said to take this good opportunity to demonstrate and let them see. Wukong perked up, eager to show off his skills, and asked the brothers to name something for him to transform into. They said to turn into a pine tree. Wukong recited the mantra, shook his body, and instantly transformed into a pine tree. It stood lush and green through all 4 seasons, towering into the clouds with a graceful and steadfast posture. No trace of the monkey remained, only frost-resistant and snow-tolerant branches. The immortals clapped and laughed loudly, praising the wonderful monkey. Their commotion alarmed the patriarch. The patriarch hurried out with his cane, asking who was making such noise there. The immortals quickly calmed down, straightened their robes, and stepped forward. Wukong transformed back into his original form and mixed among them, telling the master they were discussing the Tao there and no outsiders were making noise. The patriarch scolded angrily, saying shouting and laughing like this showed they had no dignity as cultivators. He explained that for those who cultivate the Tao, opening their mouth scatters their spirit and moving their tongue stirs up trouble. He questioned how they dared to laugh so loudly there. The immortals replied, asking for forgiveness and explaining that son Wukong had been demonstrating his transformation skills for fun. They had asked him to turn into a pine tree and he had done it perfectly. They had praised him so loudly that they disturbed the master. The patriarch waved them away, then called Wukong forward, asking what he was showing off for. He scolded Wukong for transforming into a pine tree and flaunting such skills in front of others. The patriarch said if Wukong saw others with abilities, he would surely beg to learn them. When others saw his abilities, they would surely beg him to teach them. If he feared trouble, he would have to teach them, and if he refused, they would harm him, putting his life in danger. Wukong kowtowed, begging for forgiveness. The patriarch said he would not punish him, but he must leave. Tears filled Wukong's eyes as he asked where he should go. The patriarch said to return to where he came from. Wukong suddenly realized he had come from Water Curtain Cave on Flower and Fruit Mountain in Ally Kingdom, Eastern Surging Continent. The patriarch said to leave quickly to save his life, and if he stayed here he would surely be in danger. Wukong acknowledged the order, saying he had been away from home for 20 years. Though he missed his followers, he could not bear to leave without repaying the master's great kindness. The patriarch said there was no kindness to speak of and told him just not to cause trouble or implicate him. Seeing the patriarch's firm resolve, Wukong had no choice but to bid him farewell, as well as his senior brothers. The patriarch warned him that he would surely do evil after he left. No matter how much trouble he caused or how violent he was, he must never say he was his disciple. If he dared to mention even half a word, the patriarch would know at once. He threatened to skin Wukong alive, grind his bones to powder, and banish his soul to the 9 nether regions, condemning him to endless suffering for eternity. Wukong promised never to mention the master's name and said he would claim he learned all these skills on his own. After thanking the patriarch again, Wukong turned to leave. He recited the mantra, jumped up, mounted the golden hooped cloud, and flew straight back to the East China Sea. In less than an hour he caught sight of Flower and Fruit Mountain in the distance. Overjoyed, the Monkey King muttered to himself about how he had left as a mortal with a heavy body, but now that he had attained the Tao, his body was light and agile. He reflected that few in the world dared to set firm aspirations, but those who do will awaken to the profound down naturally. Crossing the sea had been difficult back then, but returning was effortless today. The master's earnest warning still rang in his ears, yet in the blink of an eye he saw the East China Sea again. Wukong descended from the clouds and walked straight toward Flower and Fruit Mountain. Suddenly he heard the cries of cranes and apes. The cranes' calls soared into the sky while the apes' cries were sorrowful and heart-wrenching. He called out loudly, telling his children he was back. Immediately thousands of monkeys big and small jumped out from the stone crevices, flowers and trees surrounding the Monkey King and kowtowing. They said the great king had been away for so long, and they had missed him as much as they craved food and water when hungry and thirsty. They explained that recently a demon had been bullying them, trying to seize their water curtain cave. They had fought him with their lives, but he had stolen their belongings and captured many of their relatives. They had been forced to guard their home day and night without rest. They were grateful he was back and said if he had been away for another year or two the cave would have belonged to someone else. Enraged, Wukong asked what demon dared to be so arrogant and told the monkeys to tell him the details so he could go avenge them. The monkeys kowtowed, saying the demon called himself the Great King Chaos and lived far to the north. Wukong asked how far it was from there. The monkeys replied that he came and went with clouds and mist, wind and rain, thunder and lightning, and they did not know the exact distance. Wukong said not to be afraid and told them to enjoy themselves while he went to find the demon. With a leap the Monkey King mounted the golden hooped cloud and flew straight north. Looking down he saw a towering and dangerous mountain. It was a magnificent peak, sharp as a brushstroke, piercing the sky with deep valleys winding like ribbons. Flowers and plants competed in beauty on both cliffs, and pine and bamboo forests vied for greenery. Dragons on the left lay docile and tamed, while tigers on the right rested peacefully. Iron oxen plowed the fields and golden flowers bloomed everywhere. Quiet birds sang softly and phoenixes stood facing the morning sun. The rocks were jagged, the water clear, and its strange and eerie scenery was unlike any other. Countless famous mountains in the world bloom and fade with the seasons, but this place remained unchanged through all 4 seasons. This was Kinsource Mountain in the 3 realms, home to the 5 elements, water, dirty cave. As Wukong admired the scenery silently, he heard voices and walked down the mountain to investigate. At the foot of the steep cliff he found the water dirty cave. Several goblins were dancing at the cave entrance, and when they saw Wukong they turned and ran. Wukong shouted, telling them to stop and pass a message to their master. He introduced himself as the Lord of Water Curtain Cave on Flower and Fruit Mountain in the south. He said their so-called Great King Chaos had bullied his followers repeatedly, and he had come to settle the score with him. The goblin rushed into the cave shouting that disaster was upon them. The Great King Chaos asked what disaster it was. The goblin replied that a monkey was at the door claiming to be the Lord of Water Curtain Cave. He said the Great King had bullied his followers and he had come to fight. The Great King Chaos laughed, saying he had heard the monkeys talk about their king who went to cultivate immortality and he must have returned. He asked what the monkey looked like and if he had any weapons. The goblin replied that he had no weapons. He was bald, wearing a red robe, a yellow sash and black boots. He was neither a monk nor a Taoist nor an immortal and was standing at the door empty-handed shouting challenges. The great King Chaos said to bring his armor and weapon. The goblin fetched them at once. The great King Chaos put on his armor, grabbed his sword, led the goblins out of the cave and shouted loudly, asking who the Lord of Water Curtain Cave was. Wukong stared intently at the demon, who wore a black gold helmet shining in the sun, a black silk robe fluttering in the wind, black iron armor strapped tightly with leather thongs, and flower-patterned boots. He stood 3 zhang tall with a waist 10 cubits wide, holding a bright sword in his hand. He looked fierce and imposing, truly worthy of the name Great King Chaos. Wukong shouted, asking how the blind demon could not see him. The great King Chaos laughed, saying Wukong was less than 4 chi tall, no more than 30 years old, and had no weapons. He questioned how Wukong dared to be so bold as to challenge him. Wukong cursed, calling the demon a blind fool. He said thinking he was small it was easy for him to grow bigger, and thinking he had no weapons his 2 hands could reach the moon in the sky. He told the demon not to be afraid and to take his punch. With a leap, Wukong jumped forward and swung his fist at the demon's face. The great King Chaos blocked it with his hand, saying Wukong was so short and he was so tall. He said using his sword against Wukong's fists would make people laugh, so he would put down his sword and fight with his fists. Wukong agreed, saying, "Come on, good man." The great King Chaos threw aside his sword and attacked. Wukong dodged nimbly, charging forward to meet him. The 2 exchanged punches and kicks, clashing fiercely. Long fists may look impressive, but short fists are firm and powerful. The great King Chaos was hit hard in the ribs and groin by Wukong's quick strikes. He dodged, picked up his sword and swung it at Wukong's head. Wukong jumped back, narrowly avoiding the blow. Seeing how fierce the demon was, Wukong used his external body technique. He pulled out a handful of hair, chewed it up and blew it into the air, shouting, "Transform." In an instant the hair turned into 300 or 400 little monkeys surrounding the great King Chaos. Since attaining the Tao, Wukong had cultivated an immortal body capable of transforming freely as he wished. These little monkeys were quick-witted and agile. Swords could not cut them and spears could not hurt them. They swarmed the demon, hugging his waist, pulling his legs, crawling between his legs, twisting his feet, beating him, pulling his hair, gouging his eyes, pinching his nose and tearing him apart like a group of playful children. Wukong seized the opportunity to grab the demon's sword, pushed the little monkeys aside, and struck the great King Chaos on the head, splitting him in 2. He then led the little monkeys into the cave, killing all the goblins, big and small. With a shake of his hand, Wukong retrieved his hair. The remaining monkeys were those who had been captured from Water Curtain Cave. Wukong asked how they had gotten here. About 30 to 50 monkeys replied with tears, saying after Wukong left to cultivate immortality, this demon had attacked them 2 years ago and kidnapped them. They said those stone basins and bowls were their belongings that the demon had stolen. Wukong said since they were their things they should move them outside. He then set fire to the cave, burning the water-dirty cave to ashes. Turning to the monkeys, he said to follow him home. The monkeys said when they were brought here they had only heard the wind whistling in their ears and had no idea how to get back. Wukong said it was just a small spell and nothing difficult. Now that he had mastered the Tao, he could do it too. He told them to close their eyes and not be afraid. The Monkey King recited the mantra, summoned a strong wind and landed gently. He told the children to open their eyes. The monkeys felt their feet touch the ground, recognized their hometown, and cheered with joy, rushing toward the water-curtained cave. The monkeys waiting in the cave swarmed out to greet them, forming a line to kowtow to Wukong according to their age. They prepared wine and fruit to welcome him back, asking about his battle with the demon and how he rescued their relatives. Wukong told them the whole story in detail. The monkeys praised him endlessly, saying they never imagined he would learn such powerful skills. Wukong said when he left them he had drifted across the East China Sea to southern Jambudipa, learning to look like a human and wear human clothes. He had wandered for 8 or 9 years but found no doubt. Then he had crossed the West China Sea to western Paragodania continent. After searching for a long time, he was fortunate to meet a master who taught him the true skill of living as long as heaven and earth, the great method of immortality. The monkeys cheered, saying this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Wukong smiled again, telling his children there was another joy. They all had a surname now. The monkeys asked what their surname was. Wukong replied that he now had the surname Sun and his Dharma name was Wukong. The monkeys clapped and cheered, saying the great king was Sun, and they were all second son, third son, little son, family son, country son, and group son. They gathered around him, offering coconut wine, grape wine, fairy flowers, and fairy fruits, celebrating joyfully as a family. Truly he united his clan under one surname and returned to his origin, waiting only to be inscribed in the immortal register. What will happen next? How will he fare in this realm? Let us continue to the next chapter.